I'm going to tell you the story of Ruth. This is especially important at the time of Shavuos because Ruth was a great-great-grandmother of David HaMelech, King David, whose yahrzeit and birthday is on Shavuos. Many years ago, in the time of the judges, there was a woman named Naomi. And Naomi lived with her husband Elimelech in the city of Beis Lechem. And there was a famine in the land of Israel. There was no food to eat. Elimelech was very wealthy. He was afraid everyone would come knocking on his door. Please give me food. Please give me food. And then he would end up with nothing. So he said to his wife, Naomi, let's go. We need to leave this land. So they packed up. They took their two sons, Machlon and Kilion, and they went to the country of Moab. And they settled there in Moab. Then Elimelech passed away. But Ruth did not go back to Israel then. She was there with her two sons. Her two sons, Machlon and Kilion, married two princesses, and they lived in Moab. And soon, Machlon and Kilion both passed away. And Ruth and Orpah were her two daughter-in-laws. Naomi said to them, look, I have nothing. I have no husband. I have no children. Now I heard there's food again in the land of Israel. I am going back. Goodbye. And she gave her daughter-in-law Orpah a kiss. And Orpah went back home. And then Ruth said to her, I will go with you. Wherever you go, I'll go. Wherever you sleep, I'll sleep. Your God will be my God. And where you're buried, I will also be buried. Oh, Naomi realized Ruth really meant that she would go with her. And together, they walked back to Beis Lechem. When they got to Beis Lechem, the people there looked and they thought, who is that lady? It looks a lot like Naomi. But when Naomi left, she was a rich lady with fancy clothes, coming in a carriage, and now she's walking. Her clothes are ripped. Her shoes are ripped. And they came up to her and they said, are you Naomi? And she said, well, call me Mara now, because my life is so bitter. And Naomi and Ruth went back to their home. Oh, imagine what it was like. No one had lived there for so many years, and the fields were desolate. Nothing was growing there. What are Naomi and Ruth going to eat? Well, Naomi told Ruth, oh, in the land of Israel, when someone is poor, the laws of the Torah protect them. They can go to the fields, and the food that's left in the corner, the farmer has to leave for the poor. When the food is growing and you cut it and you put it in bundles and it drops, what's left is for the poor. And if you're collecting the bundles and you forget one, then that's also left for the poor. So Naomi would have been embarrassed if she went to the fields. So Ruth said, oh, I will go. She took her basket and she went to the field. And she bent very carefully and sneezed, picked up the wheat and put it in her basket from place to place. Who was watching? The owner of the field, Boaz, was watching, and he said, ooh, who is that girl? She's so modest. Oh, they told him, that is Ruth. She is Naomi's daughter-in-law, and she is taking such good care of Naomi. Every day, Naomi would bring home food and wheat for her and Naomi. When the season was finished and there was no more wheat to pick, Naomi said to Ruth, listen, my dear, your husband has passed away and you have no children. You need to get remarried, and you need to marry a close relative. Boaz, whose field you've been gathering wheat, he is a relative. You should go to him and you should tell him he needs to redeem the fields and marry you. This is what you should do. You should go into the barn, because he's going to be there protecting the food. He's going to sleep there. Go in the barn before he does with your beautiful Shabbos clothes. And when you hear him lay down and fall asleep, then you should go uncover his feet and then tell him, you are the Goel, you are the Redeemer, and you need to marry me. So Ruth, even though that was such a hard thing to do and embarrassing, she listened to her mother-in-law. She went to the barn when no one was there, and she hid. And then, just like her mother-in-law thought, in came Boaz. He lay down and covered himself, and she waited, and then she came out. And she saw the blanket on him, and she uncovered his feet, and she sat there in the dark barn. And he woke up, and he thought, oh my goodness, who's here? And she answered him, it is I, Ruth. You are the Goel. You need to take care of our fields and marry me. And he said, oh my goodness, well, I am not the closest relative. There's another relative that's closer. If he doesn't want to marry you, I will. And he gave her baskets of wheat, and she went home and told her mother-in-law. The next day, first thing in the morning, Boaz went to the gate of the city and waited for the relative that was closer. He said, will you marry Ruth? He said, no, I can't do that. And so Boaz married Ruth and gave birth to a child who gave birth to a child who gave birth to a child who then gave birth to David HaMelech. We read or study the book of Ruth on Shavuos, who was the ancestor of David HaMelech. David HaMelech's birthday and Yortzeit falls on this day. He wrote the book of Tehillim with 150 chapters.